Hey guys, it's Max from Closed In, and today I want to take you through a workflow that we built recently for one of our clients. It's a pretty particular flow, which I think is quite interesting, which is why I want to highlight it here. This client is a OnlyFans modeling agency. Basically, what he does, he supports girls who are active on OnlyFans to grow their reach and audience. And in this specific instance, there's a quite challenging aspect of the go-to-market strategy here, which is he wants to reach the models, of course. But these specific models are actually very hard to get in touch with because, as you can imagine, they have a big following online, which means that their, for example, Instagram inbox or OnlyFans inbox is super saturated. And reaching them on email, they have like management, etc. So it's very hard to get in touch with them. So we came up with a different strategy of getting in touch with them, which was through photographers. So what we decided to do in this flow is get a list of OnlyFans models, find their Instagram handle, from there find photographers who are linked to these girls and reach out to those. Because the idea is that the photographers are way easier to reach, and because they're in direct contact with the girls, we might have a way in there. So basically what happened is that the offer that we structured around it is saying, hey, if you know a girl who is interested in services like these or something similar, we can give you a commission or a signing bonus. That was basically the offer that we were trying to push. So the challenge here was finding the right photographers. And let me show you how we did it. So as mentioned, first we had a list of about 1,000, a little bit more OnlyFans girls, their Instagram handles. At this point, we tried to find photographers who are associated with them. What we did is scrape the accounts they follow. So not their followers, because those can be millions or hundreds of thousands, but we actually scrape the accounts that they are following, because there's a way higher chance that they are actually affiliated with them. From that point, we do that with Appify, by the way. So you can see that here we were actually running the native Appify integration on this, but we noticed that we were not able to get results from it, so we had to run it actually within Appify. There's an Instagram scraper where you can scrape the followers of accounts, and there it worked. I think because the limits were way too high, or the limits were too low for the amount of scraping that we wanted to do. So that's what you're seeing here. And then we had like a bunch of tables, because for 1,000 girls, if they all follow 1,000 accounts, there's already 100,000 contacts to go through. And it was actually way more. So I think all in all, we scraped a few 100,000 Instagram profiles. And that's why we had to create multiple tables, because Clay can only fit so many rows in one table. So let me show you the workflow when they enter a table. First of all, we find their username, and we get the full name, like the full account name, ID, etc. From here, it's pretty important to qualify them, because of course all the accounts that they follow, they're not all photographers. We do that based on a formula. I can show you. It's a formula where we search for these words that should be related to being a photographer. If they do, they get qualified. Then we also need to know the person, who the actual person behind the account is, so that we can reach out to them through email. Because with only a username, it's hard to get an email address. So we need to find the actual person. What we did there is use Gemini to try to find the person behind the account based on all the information that you can find on the Instagram page, and potentially a website link that can be in the description of the Instagram. So here we find Brody Butler, official website, we normalize the domain, normalize the URL. Then we check if the person is a photographer. So there's a few criteria that we check there, which can be seen like on the Instagram or on the website, seeing that they take shots of people, or they mention certain words like doing shoots, that kind of stuff. If they qualify, they go to the next step. Then we check the country. And for this client, he only wants to reach out to UK and US. So this is what we check here. Then if they're UK, US, they get verified or qualified. And from there we noticed the TAM was getting pretty small, so we decided to include other English-speaking countries like Australia, Canada, to make it a bit bigger. From there we tried to find email addresses for the ones that get qualified. And we do that with the waterfall enrichment method inside of Clay. The email address that we find, we verify with MillionVerifier, then we double verify with Bouncebán. But still a lot of email addresses are not found. So what we do then is use Clayagent to search the website or the Instagram page to see if it can still find a general email address anywhere that we could still potentially reach out to. And then we see that we can actually still find a lot more. And it's also giving us where it found it, so the source, so we can potentially verify. Then we again verify with MillionVerifier and Bouncebán. And then the ones that we still don't find or were not verified, we use the custom waterfall to check based on the Instagram handle if we can find the email address. So I can show you the waterfall. It's affluence, Modash, and influencers.club. And those can find email addresses based on the Instagram handle or based on the social media account. These are quite expensive in credit cost. That's why we use it as the last step. So as you can see here, we still find something. We of course again verify it. And then the final step is, we send it to one combined table where we pull all the verified leads and the qualified leads. This is the final list that you can see here. And what we also like to do is include like an icebreaker, referencing something like a recent shoot they did to make it a bit more personalized. So for example here what we got is, I really like some of the shoots you've done. I feel like we could mean something for each other. And then comes the pitch, of course. So if we take a look at the final list, these are all the qualified, verified leads that we found. A little bit more than 1K. And we see who they are followed by, what their full name is, where they're from, what their first name is. Here we added another step to check their first names, because in a lot of cases the first name turned out to be incorrect. And I can show you that here as well. If we scroll down, here you can see Sky Studios is actually slipping through. He thinks this person is called Sky. But for example here, Spot 101. Basically, if it doesn't look like a first name, I want it to output purple. This is like something that Eric Nowoslowski always does, because the AI has difficulties outputting nothing, and it's going to output weird stuff. But if you give it a very clear rule, like if it's not a name, output purple, it's actually super relevant and super accurate. So from there we can determine, okay, who actually has a first name and who doesn't. And then we see here the first name extracted, and here we see that we only use first names, so the cleaned up first names. You can see if it's purple, it's going to be empty. So that we can use, of course, in the email copy. If there is a first name, use the first name. If there is no first name, just mention hey, or sometimes we say like, instead of the first name, we use the word there to make it say hey there, and then the email copy comes. We get the username, the full name from Instagram, and then we have the master email column. So that's the full flow that we ran. What's interesting about the results for this campaign, we ran it for 1 month, and from this we got 36 opportunities, so 36 positive replies. And what was interesting about this campaign is that we sadly didn't manage, or the client didn't manage to sign any new clients from it. So after analyzing the campaign, what seemed to have happened here is that we had a certain idea about the market, certain assumptions that we were going to test. We did, and the flow actually was very successful. So we were able to get very high reply rates and good opportunities. And I think one of the reasons for that is that it was pretty tough or pretty complex to find these email addresses, which generally means that the inbox of these people is way less saturated than, for example, SaaS founders, because everybody seems to want to target SaaS founders, which means that the reply rate here was going to be way higher and the opportunity rate as well. I think the reason why no clients actually got signed from this flow is that the assumptions that we did at the beginning maybe were not completely right, in the sense that photographers, maybe they're in touch with these models, but to actually have like good quality models who have like a big reach or are interesting, qualified for our client, that turned out to not always be the case. And a lot of photographers replying to be interested were actually not big enough, didn't have the reach, or were just simply not able to link them to one of the models. So that's something that we learned from this campaign, and that's all I wanted to say about it and show. That's it for this one. If you got any questions about it, or you would like to see the flow in more detail, or maybe receive the clay table, just reach out to me on here on YouTube or on LinkedIn. You know where to find me, or find anyone on the team at Closed In, and we're more than happy to help you. Okay guys, that's it. Bye bye. See you next time.